All right, everyone, another little talk here about the immigration issue. Now, the primary issue has been all but forgotten at the moment. People aren't even really talking about the detention facilities. Did you notice this? The public conversation is totally switched. At first it was like, look at the crying kids, you know, it's inhumane. Now, people aren't really talking about that at this point. They're planning to have like rallies and marches. Michael Moore is going to show up and all that. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be 1 million people there, and Michael Moore will be more of an obstruction than all 1 million of them combined. It'll probably be less than 100,000. It'll probably be like 50, 60,000 people show up. They'll mill around for a while with their pink hats on, hashtag resist posters, and then they'll leave. That's sort of been drowned out at this point, really, because of Chuck Schumer and Maxine Waters and some of these others. Maxine Waters is an enormous stumbling block for the whole Democratic Party. I guarantee so many other Democrats are so worried about the fact that she's sort of found her footing. She's found her haranguing issue, and she's like, well, I can be the immigrant candidate. I can be the sponsor of migrant stuff. And so I'm just going to sit here and use the bully pulpit and talk about this endlessly. They're really concerned about that. I guarantee that Chuck Schumer has left her an angry voicemail or two by now, especially in the wake of her comments that Pelosi and Schumer and a lot of others, even Bill Clinton came out and said, no, I'm not comfortable with this, when she came out and told her fans to harass Trump admin officials. But for the Republicans, it couldn't be better. Because now they can use Maxine Waters' statements in campaign ads and say, hey, if we lose control of Congress and the Democrats take back the House and the Democrats have power, they're going to introduce a radical new face of the United States where the government doesn't do its duty and where people get harassed and attacked. And making that kind of message, telling people, hey, you will be personally attacked, when you've got a pretty good indicator that that's actually kind of true, that's a really good political strategy. It's a little bit dubious. Maxine Waters herself is not going to punch people out for their beliefs. She's not capable. Although Loomer, I think, has actually filed assault charges. That's kind of frivolous. And it's basically to get, score political points, hitting someone with a piece of paper. And that's not really assault. I think we need to be adults about that. Legally, though, it could hold. Yeah, technically speaking, under our nation's weird laws, yeah, some judge might declare it to be assault and actually take up the case, make her pay a civil fine, who knows? We live in a weird era when people are so fragile that if they get hit with a piece of paper, they act like a soccer player after they get a minor ding on their foot. Oh my God, I'm going to be crippled for life. And they roll around and they make agonizing, like, grotesque faces. And it's all a little bit of a show. And it's basically, hey, I want the other team to get a penalty because it helps us out. Soccer, in a way, is less a sport than it is a Shakespearean tragedy of sorts at times. It's very, very funny. It's the one that's worth watching because that happens, and then the riots afterwards for hours. Cars burning and stuff. It's like, yeah, what's on TV? Oh, live coverage of this football protest. And it can be very exciting. It's a little bit like watching a war movie. There's plenty of smoke and explosives and people dying and stuff, so you never know. But the far left believes that it speaks for an unspoken consensus within the United States. This is the problem for the Democrats. Their coalition involves the far left. Now, in the past, when there was less social alienation experienced by the far left, it wasn't really a problem. They had normal turnout. They would give them a concession, one little thing, one message in the campaign, like Hillary Clinton saying, oh yeah, maybe we can have like more healthcare subsidies. Maybe we can kind of sort of legalize weed or something. Hey, maybe I'll unlock those UFO files, she said. And it's like, come on. Shitty campaigning idea. But essentially, she's a neoliberal. She's not a far leftist. She's a corporate liberal. The problem for them is that they actually got energized behind a candidate. It's exactly the same problem the Republicans had after Ron Paul. Now, in times past, the libertarian, sort of paleocon, maybe even the evangelical fringe of the party, they didn't have power. But they had a seat at the table. They'd take up a couple of wedge issues and talk about them, maybe once in a blue moon pass a piece of legislation so they could hold their party's coalition together. But then Ron Paul came along, and he got 15% of the Republicans really, really energized. And when Ron Paul wasn't their candidate, and in fact, when the RNC screwed Ron Paul, it's a lot like when the DNC did that to Bernie Sanders. Roughly a third of Democrats are pissed off more, I think, at the Democratic Party than almost any other entity. They're more pissed off at Pelosi. Look at what Maxine Waters, she's openly attacking Pelosi and Schumer and others. They're more mad at the DNC than they are at Trump, which is why the Democrats are at a grave disadvantage going into the midterms. Again, look at polling over the next few weeks, see if I'm not right. Trump's approval may very well rise another point to around 45. The generic ballot will probably tighten. I don't, by the way, expect Republicans to take the lead. At least by midterm day, I expect them to be a point or two down, at least, in the generic ballot. But that doesn't really matter, because look at what the turnout differential will be. Most of the candidates running in the DNC are still neoliberals. They don't have energized fan bases, because they're not the kind of person who can come out and say, yeah, we need to impeach 45 and we need socialism now, and things that get the far left excited, especially the younger voters. People, millennials are the most left-wing voting bloc, and even a good 20 points of them have left the Democratic Party over the last half decade. When we talk about the hashtag walk away thing, it's not an exit. Some people are claiming, well, bots and Russians are trying to convince you there's an exodus out of the Democrats, but they are lying. I'll be honest here, it's not an exodus, but it is a trickle of people. Now, if you've already lost the last election, you'd think that losing even a few voters would be dire. You'd think that you would not be optimistic about the appraisal of your situation over the next few electoral cycles. The only saving grace, I guess, for the left at this point is that when a lot of these candidates lose, they'll be able to rub the neoliberals' face in it, say, told you so, we need far leftism. That'll probably crush you in 2020 and cause the reformation of the Democratic Party. They will take on a new form, a new coalition, a new consensus will be built. Be interesting to see what form that takes. I think it'll be temporarily very far left, lose again, experience so much social alienation it causes literal violence within the party. Then it collapses a second time, a mini paradigm within a paradigm. We've seen it before. And then it becomes sort of a working class party. Something that fuses elements of fiscal leftism and certainly on the moral issues with a greater tolerance for religion. Probably they've already been moving in that direction anyway. You've seen what they've said about like Catholicism or Islam. Something like that probably gives up some of the wedge issues because they've stopped working. Like right now, what are they talking about? Oh, females can save the country. White female voters broke for Trump. College educated too. That hasn't happened for a Republican in a long time. The sex-based wedge issue has begun to die. Only the far left and the far right engage in it. They're a minority. The far right now is pacified because Trump is in office. The Republicans are calm. They're a little bit worried maybe about losing the House. I would advise them, don't be worried. Don't be demoralized, essentially. You need to go forth from a position of strength, stick to your guns, and essentially let Trump campaign where he wants, because he's got a better idea than most of you about what's going on. Also, get Rand Paul out there. You need to groom him for a presidential slot because he could win easily. Even though he'll be older by 2024, he'd still be young-ish compared to a lot of senators and have a lot more youth appeal. Run Rand Paul, see if he can't win. I bet he'd knock all the Republican challengers out, and I bet he'd win the election. I bet he'd become the next president of the United States. Yeah, I think he would. Ron Paul posting cultural Marxism meme yesterday aside, who cares? Nobody cares. Did it hurt anybody? Did it victimize anybody? No? Well, then I don't fucking care. People on the left post all sorts of weird stuff all the time. They post stuff on, we're going to basically, that image of the Nazi with his hands up and a person with a bayonet saying, we can defeat them again, only they change it around and they put a bourgeois person or some random thing there and they're like, the Red Guard's going to come and cut you to pieces. Yeah, but it's not victimizing anyone. It's not even incitement. It's just a fucking meme. Get over it. The alt-left has collapsed the Democratic coalition. They've actually successfully done it. This happened to the Republicans. When the Democrats say, well, if you don't turn out massive numbers, we'll die forever, Trump will be a dictator. People were saying that when they were saying that for Mitt Romney in 2012. Oh, but if we don't solidify, if you young Ron Paul voters don't back Mitt the Twit, the Democrats will steamroll us forever. Did that happen? No, the Democrats got a big dick, overstretched, and collapsed. They lost control of the Senate, and then they lost the presidency along with a bunch of governorships. And the same can happen again. Stop worrying about it. If the Democrats reform as a party and form a platform that is actually sane and stable and a coalition able to work well with one another, they can win elections. Until then, you will probably lose more often than winning. Even if you knocked Trump out in 2020, you probably still wouldn't have the Senate. You couldn't do anything. It would be more obstruction, and then they would be socially alienated. The next big-time right-wing Republican comes along. Maybe Barron Trump runs for office. Who knows? And they will win, too. This happens. We're in a period within U.S. politics that's more frenetic than a lot because we're undergoing a paradigm shift. Some people they sit there rambling about civil war, or they sit there rambling about, oh, our political situation is the result of Russia trying to cause a civil war here. No, it's the result of a paradigm changing over within our culture, driven largely by the internet. That's why it's more fast-paced than it has been in the past. It was basically, a lot of us were born under the old paradigm. It's dying now. Expect more political problems. Expect a lot of alienation. A lot of weird shit to go on, but it's not going to lead to a civil war. People say that all the time. People have been baiting about that for 1,000 years. They've been saying that since the first Civil War happened. Oh my God, they took away a tariff. They introduced a new tax. The candidate was not white. It's going to cause a civil war within the country. Oh my God. Back in the 20s, the Ku Klux Klan had 200,000 people march down Pennsylvania Avenue. Where was the Civil War? It never happened. It's just not going to, it's not going to occur, and it has nothing to do with Russia. The left has such a losing strategy when they keep haranguing about it. It's like, okay, yeah, we've heard this all before. Where's your proof? Oh, you don't have it? Okay, yawn, boring, bye. That's basically what the average centrist, I think, does about it. For an independent voter like myself, I look at the Republicans. They don't seem to be under nearly as much stress as the Democrats. I'm seeing basically the head of the party, in the speaker's position, Nancy Pelosi, she's getting attacked by members of her own party. Bernie Sanders breaks rank on ice and he gets dogpiled by socialists. That doesn't seem calm to me. I don't see that happening within the GOP. The never-Trumpers largely have fallen into line. That's about all. Peace out.